Are the citizens of Bikini Bottom the result of nuclear radiation? Who is Pearl's mother? What is the secret formula for the Krabby Patty? These are, by far, the three biggest questions in the cartoon Spongebob SquarePants. And today, I'm going to answer all three and more with just one theory. Prepare yourself for the darkest SpongeBob conspiracy you've ever seen. This is the evolution theory. The most popular theory about SpongeBob is the nuclear radiation theory from Bikini Atoll. It's quite simple. It has been confirmed that Bikini Bottom is actually located below a real place called Bikini Atoll. From 1946 to 1958, the United States conducted nuclear tests there, devastating the area and leaving it radioactive to this day. The theory states that the reason why the citizens of Bikini Bottom can talk and have formed advanced societies is because of mutations caused by these nuclear tests. And that's basically the whole theory. To find out if the Bikini Atoll theory is true, we first have to determine if the fact that fish talk and are so intelligent is exclusive to Bikini Bottom, or if it's just how the SpongeBob universe works. After all, it could be that all animals in this world are capable of talking, and that's completely normal, because in the end, SpongeBob is still just a cartoon. Well, if we look at episode 10 of season 10, Savage Wilds, we get a clue about how the SpongeBob world works. In this episode, a green moon appears and transforms all the characters into less cartoonish and more realistic versions of themselves. Just like in real life, they can't talk and end up trying to eat each other. The French narrator is observing everything and says this very important line: "I've been monitoring the behavior of the green moon all day. It's called the Neptune Moon. Every 100 years, it devolves everyone in Bikini Bottom into primitive fish." This implies that the characters in Bikini Bottom are more evolved and were once like these primitive fish. But that doesn't prove that evolution only exists in Bikini Bottom. It could still be a worldwide phenomenon. There is direct proof that the citizens of Bikini Bottom are uniquely evolved. However, there is one big piece of evidence that offers resistance to prehistoric Bikini Bottom. We've seen episodes like ER or SB-129 that showed Bikini Bottom millions of years in the past, but we still see evolved versions of SpongeBob and Patrick. How are we seeing these evolutions millions of years before the tests at Bikini Atoll? The only conclusion is that the Bikini Atoll theory is simply not true. Clearly, something caused the citizens of Bikini Bottom to be uniquely evolved, but whatever caused it happened millions of years ago. So what really caused the evolution throughout the show? The only thing we've seen that directly affects the evolution of the characters is the green moon in Savage Wilds, which the French narrator specifically calls the Neptune Moon. King Neptune is a character who has existed since the beginning of the sea, whom the citizens of Bikini Bottom see as their god, and who has the ability to transform fish into other forms. King Neptune transformed the fish of the sea into more evolved subjects for him to rule. We know that this evolution is not specific only to Bikini Bottom. We've seen different cities and distant places in the ocean that still have talking fish, which makes sense because the marine life in Bikini Bottom evolved to resemble humans. It's no surprise that, just like humans, they expanded beyond Bikini Bottom and colonized other areas of the sea. What is the relationship between evolved fish and primitive, unevolved fish? They probably just coexist peacefully. Wait a second. In episode 10 of season 3, the Krusty Krab training video has this hilarious and absurd moment when they talk about Mr. Krabs. Mr. Krabs, after the war, Mr. Krabs became reclusive in a deep depression that seemed endless. What war happened in Bikini Bottom? With this new context, it's possible that Mr. Krabs fought in a war against these wild and primitive fish of the sea. Remember, in Savage Wilds, some of those devolved fish were huge compared to the evolved fish, and they immediately started attacking each other. For the citizens of Bikini Bottom to survive and expand, they probably entered some kind of war. Through the few flashbacks we have, we know that Mr. Krabs served in the Navy. And yes, they sailed on ships in an ocean, even though they were already underwater. This is actually a real phenomenon where certain parts of the sea can have a higher salinity level and look like an underwater ocean. We also know from maps of Bikini Bottom that the city is surrounded by this underwater ocean, which places Mr. Krabs' war outside of Bikini Bottom, where this evolutionary war would have to happen. If we look at Mr. Krabs' house, we see that it is full of memorabilia from his Navy days. But hidden here, there is something that will blow your mind and answer one of the biggest questions in the show. Hanging on his wall is a photo of a huge whale next to a ship. It can't be Pearl's mother. Pearl is a crab whale daughter. The show never explains how a crab can be the father of a whale, but most people assume she was adopted. People have speculated about who Pearl's biological mother is for years, and I think we just found our answer. We saw 2 photos of this whale on a ship in season 7, episode 3, just one episode before we found out that Mr. Krabs fought in a war. Since this is among all of Mr. Krabs' Navy things, we can assume that this is something he encountered and not just a random photo. The whale is huge compared to the ship. We've seen adult whales in Bikini Bottom before, but they are nothing compared to the size of this one. This one bears a much greater resemblance to Pearl when she devolved in savage wilds and became huge. So this has to be an unevolved primitive whale, and the image clearly shows them fighting. This not only proves that there was a war between evolved and primitive fish, but that Mr. Krabs definitely fought in it. But this also implies something very dark. Mr. Krabs killed Pearl's mother. The only direct reference we have in the show to Pearl's mother is one of Mr. Krabs' many sayings, Pearl's mother. He uses it in shocking or terrible situations because he knows about the terrible thing that happened to Pearl's mother. Why did Mr. Krabs go into such a deep depression after the war? Because he is haunted by what he did, and the smoking harpoon to prove it is right there on his wall. This leaves us with one important question. Why did he adopt Pearl after killing her mother? He probably realized that she had a young daughter who possessed the evolutionary genes. Instead of leaving her to die, he adopted her as his own, keeping the dark secret that he was responsible for her mother's death. What's the story with all the pets in Bikini Bottom? Since most fish are basically human, but a snail or a worm acts like a pet, just like humans domesticated wild animals, it's no surprise that evolved fish have domesticated primitive fish as pets. Unlike the huge primitive fish that the citizens of Bikini Bottom had to go to war with, there are also smaller primitive fish, such as jellyfish, snails, worms, seahorses, and clams, with which the citizens of Bikini Bottom managed to form a symbiotic relationship from which the citizens of Bikini Bottom get their food. Of course, some of it is plant-based, but there seems to be a lot of meat-based food at the bottom of the sea. I think you know where I'm going with this. The citizens of Bikini Bottom eat primitive fish. It's not cannibalism if they're less evolved than you, right? There is no moral dilemma there. In episode 13 of season 3, we see direct proof of this when the characters go clam fishing. This is something completely normal in this world. And then there's the chum bucket, which comes from chum. Chum is literally just ground fish. The show's not even hiding it. We don't see much of the meat harvesting side of Bikini Bottom, and it's not surprising to me that they keep it a secret, you know, with all the cannibalism history. But there is a secret to making food that is kept more secret than anything in Bikini Bottom: the Krabby Patty secret formula. Throughout the show, there has been a lot of contradictory evidence about the Krabby Patty secret formula. Sometimes it's a family recipe, other times Mr. Krabs discovered it on accident, sometimes it's a secret formula, sometimes it's a book, and sometimes it's a secret sauce. And any glimpse we get of the formula is just a bunch of random nonsense. There is a ton of contradictory evidence, but I think all of this may be intentional to throw people off. Mr. Krabs spread misinformation about the formula. Even one of the Spongebob crew members once said that Krabby Patties are vegetarian and do not contain meat. But I've always been a little skeptical about what creators say. They also said that they cannot show fish as food. Admittedly, they clearly do with the chum, the clam fishing, and all the many jokes where fish turn into food. It's almost as if Nickelodeon doesn't allow them to publicly acknowledge this because it could create a controversy, but they could still insert this dark secret into the show. So what is the real secret ingredient? Where does the meat really come from? It's strange that we never see Mr. Krabs receive the meat delivery or go out to get it himself. It's as if he has all the meat he needs stocked somewhere. What primitive meat could Mr. Krabs have access to? Maybe he's keeping something from the war. What could Mr. Krabs have killed during the war that he doesn't want anyone to find out about? Something big enough to supply him with meat for years without needing more? Are you really gonna make me say it? Mr. Krabs is using the carcass of Pearl's dead mother to make Krabby Patties.